Hey guys, DM Scotty here. Good to have you with me. In this episode of DM's Craft, I'm going to do a little terrain piece that's a nest. It's going to be a nest. Actually, it's going to be in my game. It's going to be a nest for a rust monster. So the players will hear this kind of cooing coming out of the nest, and they'll go up. Maybe they'll maybe go up to investigate, and then all of a sudden this rust monster pops out. So it's a nice way to kind of surprise your players. Unless they see something in the room, I'm not a fan of just slopping the monster down. And it's like, oh, there you go, there's the monster. So kind of play with your players' expectations, and or torment them as if you want. But I like to mess with their expectations and do things that they might not expect, or have ways to disguise or shield things so they're not immediately apparent to the players unless they investigate. So this is a good way to do that, and we'll get to crafting the nest, and here we go. So here I just have some thin cardboard. I've just decided on the size of my nest, so I'm going to use this lid just to trace around. So I'll just trace around with a Sharpie. And now I've got a perfect circle, so I'll cut that out. You could use the razor knife, but on the thin cardboard it's pretty much just as easy to cut it out with scissors. So here I've got my disc cut out. So now what I'm going to do is I want this to be flexible. So I'm going to cut it with the X-Acto knife. I'm just going to basically go from the center and just come out in like small pie slices. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but I've got the cuts. I'll just make it easier. Now what I'm going to do is take my scissors and cut to the center. So now I can kind of bend it, and that those pieces, the pie pieces I cut on the opposite side, they're scoring the cardboard, so they're making it easier to bend. So now I can kind of do like a dome shape, like this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little doorway for the critter to come out. So I'm just going to guesstimate that. So there, I've got that. So now what I'm going to do is just bend it up. Need to play with it somewhat. And then I'm going to keep it on the table when I glue it so I can make sure I can get it flat. So there we go. I think I'll do this like that. So now I'll glue it. Generous portion of glue, hot glue on there. Make sure when you're getting it on there, you get it flat on the table. So now I've got my shape. So you can see I got a little doorway there, and it's like a little dome. So now we'll move on to the next phase. Now I'm going to use a fave of mine, the flexible modeling paste. So I'll open that. And I've got a wide brush here. And I'm just going to start grabbing some. And just put it on the nest here. So this is a very similar technique to the cart. Want to make sure you fill that crevice where the two pieces of cardboard came together to kind of hide it. Kind of nice to get in the doorway too. You can hide that corrugation, since the corrugation will be hidden on the bottom side. It's just the door, you can see it in the door, so that'll kind of hide it. So now I've got all that stuff on there, and now I will use my toothpick like I did before to start adding some detail. So you can just kind of make it look like twigs or stuff that's been. Another technique you can do too, besides just dragging it through, is you can kind of roll it, and that'll give you an interesting texture. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with that. So now I'm going to give you a little close-up. So there we go. We have our little nest. We'll let that dry up and then we'll paint it. So here we go for my nest here. It's dried up. So I'm going to use a raw umber, which is a very dark brown, and put that on my palette, which I just use, as you notice, I just use disposable plates, and so get all that, just start painting it on. I'm going to use a little water, thin it up. Alright, so that's already starting to look like a nest. So there we go, and that'll that gloss will go away. It'll flatten down when it dries. So there we go. There's our start, and we'll let that dry, and then we'll put the highlight on. So here we go. My nest is all dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it like kind of a twig texture. So I'm going to use, or a color. So I'm going to use like a light tan to pick out those details. So I'll get that on the brush and start dry brushing. Now I'm not hitting it. I don't want to hit it too hard. Just kind of enough to bring out that detail. And there we go. You can see how that detail kind of popped out. Here's my tile with a little nest set up on it. So what I did in my scenario was the player characters meander in, and they hear like a cooing from the nest. So of course one of them goes in to check it out, and as they do, a rust monster, as the metal in the party gets closer, the rust monster leaps out, quite agitated and after the players with the metal. So that's a nice way to, something like this is a nice way to surprise your players, so they don't immediately come in and you say, oh, here's the monster, you know. So it kind of adds a little bit of drama to it and surprise, and this is a good way to do it. So they see the nest first, they don't see the rust monster in the nest, and then when they go to check it out, that's when the rust monster leaps out, and now they're all trying to run away from the rust monster. So that's one use for the nest, and I'm sure you can think of many others. And thanks for joining me on the DM's Craft, and I'll see you soon.